Welcome back to the Legacy Virtual Users Group Tuesday's Tips during the month of October. Now, if you've paid particular attention to the past two videos, you may have noticed an error. It had to do with those pesky apostrophes. Our group is the Legacy Virtual Users Group, users being plural possessive, not singular. I noticed my error with the apostrophe after publishing the first two videos, A and B, but everything from here on out is corrected. Hey, how good are your eyes, and did any of you even notice? And while we're here doing some housekeeping, we now have 716 members in our unaffiliated Legacy Virtual Users Group community here on Google+. Welcome to our newest members, and thanks to all of you who've been with us for the past 2 years. Now, back to the celebration. Today we're going to learn more about the cause of death feature in Legacy. This image is a word cloud of the causes of death in my Legacy database. A few caveats. I only have a cause of death for about 6% of my individuals, so this is not a complete listing. But it points out a few things. We are long-lived. That's a good thing. The cause of death is larger based on how many times it's used in a wordle, and the major causes of death so far, and this is heavily weighted towards the Newfoundland and Minnesota ancestors because it's easy to find those death records. Those causes of death are influenza, pneumonia, cancer, heart attack, diphtheria, convulsions, and tuberculosis. And I have to tell you, I didn't even know what a few of those things were. We do have a few automobile accidents and one airplane crash while testing a new jet for the Air Force. Are you finding and entering the cause of death for your family members? Where and how do you list this information? And have you had occasion to use it in real life? My nephew contacted me earlier this year for cause of death information for one of his medical school classes, and my sister recently needed this for a class project in her social work program. Finally, someone in the family is interested in our family history, although for completely different reasons. I just need to remember baby steps. Today, let's learn more about using the cause of death feature in Legacy. Let's start with the basics. If you click on Help in the Legacy toolbar and type in the keyword cause, you can display cause of death as listed in the Legacy index. As you can see, medical notes and cause of death are shown in the Notes section. We can record medical information and primary and secondary cause of death information. I have configured my Family View vital statistics to show born, baptized, died, buried, and cause of death. If it's filled in the Notes section, it will appear right here in my Family View. If you click on the Notes icon, you have a choice of 3, General, Research, and Medical. If there's an asterisk in front of any of the note choices, you've added something to that note section. Here in the medical notes section, you can add primary and secondary causes of death, as well as any additional information. This is where some researchers add information from medical records or a death certificate. Keep in mind that this note is wide open. This could be the place you put any type of medical information. Other researchers put information from medical records and death certificates in their chronological listing, that Events and Facts section of Legacy. This makes it easy to read in chronological order and easy to search if you want to work with death certificates from particular locations. The search function allows you to search for individuals with an event name, and then you simply select from the drop-down menu of your Events and Facts. Minnesota has an online system for finding birth and death certificates. Once you know the certificate number, you can visit the archives and use the microfilm to read, abstract, or acquire a copy of the death certificate. I always put this information in Death Certificate in the Events and Facts, as well as my To-Do section. Now, as you will recall, I have a cause of death for Ellen Kylie Murphy of old age, and I took this from her obituary. Let's take a quick look there. Here is Ellen Kylie Murphy's obituary, transcribed, which is simply copied word for word with any explanatory information in brackets. One of my favorite sites has always been Obits of Nebraska. I love the title, and it was a service of the Nebraska Historical Society. Sadly, it seems that it's either down or no longer maintained, so I found the reference to it on Cindy's list to make sure that I didn't have the wrong URL. I had to use the Wayback Machine because the URL no longer returned the site. So either the site's down or it's not being maintained. But this is where I found the index to obituaries in Nebraska and ordered a number of them from my family members. As you can see, if the cause of death is listed in the notes section, it will show up at the end of the chronological material. And you can see that I added the source citation. I obtained the obituary from Obits of Nebraska, and I show the date I accessed it, July 20, 2011, but I didn't record it until yesterday. This is on my list of things to do better in the future. Here is Ellen Kylie Murphy's obituary, and as you can see, even briefly, there's a wealth of information. When and where she was born, when she and her family came to America, where they first lived, where they ended up settling, when and where she was married, the name of her spouse, the names of all of her children, the names of her siblings, her religion, education, and a little bit about her life, as well as her funeral and burial, together with everyone who came and where they came from, and finally, her cause of death. Whatever you do, be sure to comb through your documents, whether it's a census, naturalization paperwork, deeds, or obituaries. Wring all the information you can from them. Treat that information as clues, not facts, and follow those clues to learn more. Again, because of how I configure my detail information, one of my choices is cause of death. I also include death index, obituary, and find a grave. I tend to work in my family view, so I can see at a glance various information, including cause of death. For my non-genealogy family members, they like being able to see how people connect and just the facts, so I consider this a useful overview, and I oftentimes provide them with screen captures. Perhaps you want to search your database to determine who doesn't have a cause of death listed. A nice little project for some of us. Simply go to the search feature, and here again use the toolbar icon. Remember to clear any list you have before you begin your search, and also remember that you can save the list and load it for further work. As you can see, with 2011 individuals, I have a little bit of work ahead of me. Perhaps you want to focus on a particular state. Be sure to check which states have their death certificates online at either Ancestry.com or FamilySearch.org. And you could always send a to-do list to a family member located in a particular state or province and get some help looking up those death certificates. By narrowing my search to Nebraska, I have 425 names, and that includes some married names of individuals that I need to find death certificates for. And if you prefer to work in the index view, you can configure your columns to include any information you want, including cause of death. When you open the index view, cause of death will be third in the columns right after the record identification number and name. Legacy is that flexible, so no matter which view you want to work in, you can have the necessary information at your fingertips. Have some medical terms you don't understand? Check out the glossary of archaic medical terms, diseases, and causes of death, especially helpful with my pre-1900 causes of death. Want to learn more about causes of death in the United States? Check out the fast stats from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. You can also learn more about it at Wikipedia, although many of these figures are from the time period before 2008. And this article from Slate.com shows the most common causes of death other than heart disease or cancer. And if you scroll through the article, there are lots more interesting maps with death-related information. So find your state and see what the most common cause of death is. Last year in October, and in a rather ghoulish Halloween blog post, Randy Seaver of Genia Musings put together a death chart, basically his pedigree chart with the causes of death listed. You might want to check that post out and do the same thing this October 31st. I'm giving you plenty of preparation time for your death chart to be prepared in Legacy. Now let's take a quick look at a death certificate from Missouri State Board of Health dated 1914. This is for one of my extended family members. We learned the primary and secondary or contributory cause of death, but when filled in by an informant who knows the individual and family, we can learn so much more from a death certificate. Here we learn the age, date of birth, and place of birth. Although with date of birth, we work out her birth year from her age and her death date. We learn her occupation, and note that the informant lives in the same household with Catherine Kiley. We learn the name and birthplace of her father and mother, the date of death, prior hospitalization, her primary residence, the place of burial or removal, and the date. There's lots of great clues to learn more about the person and find additional records to fill in the blanks. So whether you check out statewide databases, and as you can see here, Illinois maintains an index that you can search by surname, full name, and/or county, and your results will include the date of death and certificate number, and this will help get you started. Or whether you use a volunteer site, where the volunteers have abstracted the death records and they list the cause of death and burial place. This is a very helpful site for my Newfoundland ancestors, and I want to give a big shout out to all the volunteers at the Newfoundland Grand Banks website. Or whether you use a subscription site like Ancestry.com or Find My Past that has death indexes, death records, and sometimes death certificates. Or one of my favorites, FamilySearch.org, a site that is free and open to all, and you can always pay it forward by helping with their indexing projects. In any of these sites, you should be able to search for death records and then input that information into your Legacy database. So, do you have any tips or suggestions for using the cause of death feature in Legacy? Why not share them in our Legacy Virtual Users Group community here on Google+. Thanks for joining us each day during the month of October as we celebrate Family History Month by using the letters of the alphabet to learn more about our Legacy software and features. I'll see you back here tomorrow for the letter D.